Welcome to Weight Loss and Wellness for Real, the podcast where people like you get the practical solutions and support you need to permanently lose the physical and mental weight so you can feel better and live the life you really want to live in the body and mind you really want to be living in. If you're looking to overcome your stress eating, overeating, binging behaviors, and move to a place of food and body freedom, as well as find more meaning and more moments of joy in life, you are in the right place. Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here and for listening today. Just a couple of things before we get going. Just a reminder, you can head to my website, heatherheinen.com. Heinen is spelled Heynen. Scroll to the bottom of any page and sign up for my free monthly newsletter on all things well-being. I always include just tips and tricks on things for our physical, mental, emotional, spiritual well-being and health. And then I always include a high protein, easy recipe, as well as links with discount codes to services and products that support this podcast. Every time you use one of those links, by the way, they're also in the episode descriptions, but every time you use one of those links to purchase something, it helps support this podcast, which I really, really, really appreciate it and helps me keep putting one of these episodes out every week. So head over there, scroll to the bottom, sign up for that newsletter. Oh, and I never ever give your email away to anyone else. I never have and never will sell my email list. So just between you and me. All right. Today we're going to talk about the paradox of control. And this is just something I've been thinking about. I've had a couple of sessions with clients where this has come up, and I used to be what I would call a heavy control freak. And I guess that's not the nicest name to give to myself, but I've worked through a lot of that and can forgive myself for those behaviors in the past. And mine had to do with now I understand. I was dealing with a ton of anxiety and didn't really recognize that's what was going on. And so those of us with anxiety, if any of you have anxiety, you're going to be able to relate to this. Those of us with anxiety, we really, really, really try to control things, because when we believe or feel we're in control, our anxiety relieves for the moment. And so we try so hard to control everything we possibly can, because then we feel a little bit better in the moment, right? So we're going to talk about this idea of control and how to learn to shift out of that mode of being for better health, for sustainable weight loss, if that's what you're here for listening. But in general, excuse me, this just applies to being able to let go of this need for control. Overall, just brings us more peace and freedom into our lives and allows us to live more authentically. Just, something to think about. Have you ever tried, to hold on to something so tightly that it kind of slipped away? So you try to control your eating perfectly and then end up binging. That was me for years. You try to control a relationship and the other person pulls away. You try to control every aspect of your life, and yet somehow your life feels completely chaotic. It's this really frustrating paradox that the more we try to control things, the more out of control we often feel. Okay, but why does this happen? And how do we find real stability and peace without gripping so tightly? And so we're going to explore this paradox of control, why letting go can actually give you more peace, stability, and success. We're going to talk about why our brains crave control and why it backfires, how it backfires, and how to actually shift into a healthier mindset that really helps you reach your goals. So let's start with the obvious. It's what I talked about in regards to my example, those of us with anxiety. We crave control. By the way, you don't have to have anxiety to crave control. We crave control as humans because uncertainty is uncomfortable. And we've talked about feelings a lot in this podcast, and we all know no human is likes to be uncomfortable, right? So we crave control because uncertainty is uncomfortable. The human brain is wired to seek predictability. It's a survival mechanism. If we know what's going to happen, we feel safe. When life feels unpredictable, our brain sees it as a potential threat, triggering stress and anxiety. So we respond by trying to control everything we can: our food, our body, our schedule, our relationships, our children, our significant other, our emotions, our friends. And in small doses, control can be helpful. Structure, planning, and discipline are important. But when control becomes rigid or fear based, that's when it starts to backfire. So when it becomes rigid, that's when we have no flexibility within our thinking. When control becomes rigid or it's coming out of fear, it actually starts to backfire. So here's the paradox: the more we try to control, the more fragile we become. So here's an example with dieting and food control. You decide to be super disciplined with your eating: no sugar, no carbs, no slip ups. And for a while, it feels great because you feel in control. I'm doing it. Yes. But then life happens, which it always, always does. You get stressed, you get tired, or you get emotional, you eat something off plan, and instead of a balanced response, you feel like you failed. And that's that all or nothing mindset that kicks in. And then you spiral into overeating or binging. And ironically, trying to control your eating too much led to losing control completely. I see this constantly. Well, this was my story too, but in all the people when I work with weight loss coaching, weight management coaching, trying to help people get into the bodies where they feel where they want to be, to feel healthy and comfortable, this is almost always everyone's story. They've tried that yo-yo dieting stuff. They've tried to control their eating, and this actually is what leads to overeating, which leads to the overweightness, which leads to the inability to sustain a healthy weight, those sort of things. Here's another example with relationships: trying to control other people. Have you ever wanted someone to change? Maybe a partner, a friend, a child. And so you give advice, you try to fix things, and you get frustrated when they don't listen. But the more you push, the more they resist. The harder you try to control them, the less control you actually have. This applies to almost every area of life. The tighter you grip your schedule, the more anxious you feel when things don't go as planned. The more you try to control your emotions, the more they build up and explode later. The more you micromanage others, the more disconnected your relationships become. So, what's the solution? If control isn't the answer, what is? Let's talk about the power of letting go. Letting go, by the way, I don't so much like that term. I've mentioned that in previous episodes, but just bear with me here, and because we all kind of know what we're talking about. So letting go of control does not mean giving up. It means shifting from rigid control to flexible influence. I'm going to say that one more time. Shifting from rigid control to flexible influence. And here's how the shift works. We want to take on a mindset that practices focusing on what we can influence, not about what we can control. So you can't control your body's exact weight, but you can influence it through healthy behaviors. You can't control other people, but you can influence them by how you show up, by the way, which you do have control over. You can't control every outcome, but you can control your response to it. So taking on a mantra of, I don't need to control everything to be okay. I don't need to control everything to be okay. And then trading perfection for flexibility. Instead of saying, I must follow this plan exactly, try, I will stay committed, but adapt as needed. I will stay committed, but adapt as needed. Instead of, I can't fail, try, every mistake is a learning opportunity. Every mistake is a learning opportunity. Instead of, this has to go my way, try, let's see how this unfolds. Let's see how this unfolds. You can really, if you, like right now, as I'm saying those two phrases, one that's very controlling and one that's very more letting go, if you will, the sensations in my body actually change just by saying those words. So this must go my way literally tenses up my chest, my throat. And then when I say, let's see how this unfolds, everything gets looser. Everything. Try that yourself. You'll see it. The shifts in your actual physical body by just saying those two things. So here's an example. If your workout plan gets disrupted, instead of quitting altogether, you find a way to adjust and keep going. When we hold more flexible mindset, when we practice staying away from trying to control everything, we end up being able to stay much more consistent in what we're trying to do and in the behaviors we are trying to enact within our life. Okay, another one, learn to sit with discomfort instead of controlling it. So, very often, our need for control comes from avoiding uncomfortable emotions. So, uncertainty, fear, frustration. So, instead of controlling everything around you to avoid those feelings, practice feeling them, actually processing your feelings, actually feeling your feelings without reacting. And we've talked lots of episodes about how to feel your feelings. Remember, it's a skill that we need to practice. Next time you feel the next time you feel the urge to control something, take a pause and ask yourself, what am I afraid of? Can I sit with this feeling instead of trying to fix it? By the way, that's a huge one for relationship. When we get people close to us who come to us and they're sharing their difficult feelings, often we get uncomfortable with those feelings that we then experience because they're uncomfortable. And so we start trying to fix it for them. We start giving advice. We start trying to give them ideas to do. And this actually can really harm relationship. I think of, when my daughter was a teenager and, she would come to me with some pretty big feelings and that could make me feel really uncomfortable and have this urge to try to give her all this advice and fix it. I learned very quickly that's not the way to do it. If I wanted my daughter to be in a close relationship with me, which is what I wanted, I really needed to be able to sit there and listen to her and hold space for her with my uncomfortable emotions because she was hurting. So that made me hurt and just be okay feeling those things. So I didn't try to give her all this advice and fix everything. And I wasn't perfect at that. The times I did try to fix, that would put a barrier between us. So this is huge. It's like, can I sit with this feeling instead of trying to fix it? And when others come to me with their stuff, can I just sit and hold space for them and support and love them, encourage them without trying to fix it for them? And then also, breathing through the discomfort and reminding yourself not everything needs to be controlled. Not everything needs to be controlled. And then trusting yourself to handle uncertainty. The real reason we try to control things, we don't trust that we'll be okay if things go wrong. But the truth is, you've already survived so many unexpected challenges in life. You can absolutely handle uncertainty. And then using a reframe instead of, I need to control this, try, I trust myself to handle whatever happens. I trust myself to handle whatever happens. All right, some practical ways to practice letting go. So, if you want to try to start shifting out of rigid control into more peace, we do have to actually practice how we think about it. And I just gave you examples. Here's some practical exercises. So, the first one is the what if exercise. So, when you catch yourself worrying, ask, what if I let go a little bit? What if I just try to let go a little bit? What if things work out fine without my micromanaging? What if things work out fine without my micromanaging? What if trusting the process leads to better results? What if trusting the process leads to better results? Second one would be to schedule unstructured time. If you're someone who plans every detail, challenge yourself to block out 1 hour of unstructured time. No agenda, just let it unfold. Number three, use a letting go mantra. When anxiety rises, repeat, I release what I cannot control. I release what I cannot control. Number 4, take one small risk. Try letting go of control in a low stakes way. Let someone else plan an event without giving input. Eat intuitively for one meal instead of tracking everything. Go into a workout without a set plan and just move your body in a way that feels good. Each time you practice letting go, you teach your brain, I don't need total control to be okay. I don't need total control to be okay. The paradox of control is this: the more we grip, the more we suffer. The more we let go, the more freedom we find. Today, I challenge you to loosen your grip just a little. Trust that you can handle uncertainty. Trust that things don't have to be perfect to be okay. Because sometimes, and this is the paradox, the best way to gain control is to let go of it. If this episode resonated with you, share it with a friend who might need to hear it. And if you try any of these letting go strategies, let me know how it goes. Thanks for listening, and I will see you next time. Did you know you can find a lot more help from me on my website? Go to heatherheynen.com. Heynen is spelled Heynen, and there you will find links to my online courses, how I work with clients one-on-one as well as online with my coaching and counseling services that I offer. The information in this podcast is intended to provide a broad understanding and knowledge of healthcare topics. This information is for educational purposes only and should not be considered complete and should not be used in place of advice from your physician or healthcare provider. We recommend you consult your physician or healthcare professional before beginning or altering your personal exercise, diet, or supplementation program.